Oh yeah, space chicken time! Hey, how's it going, guys? We're here with the brand new S.H Monsterarts release. This is the Godzilla Final Wars Gigan, and what they call the 2004 Great Decisive Battle version. Now, this is a re-release figure. The original one came out a few years ago, but this one does have a better selection of accessories. I believe it's the extra I-beam laser and some wires and so forth, which is pretty cool. I haven't actually opened up this figure yet, so I'm pretty excited to pop it open and see what he does come with. And just a straight heads up, I haven't actually seen this movie yet. I thought this guy was coming out in October, and I was planning to watch the movie this coming weekend. So I may not be too familiar with some of the parts in this, so I do apologise for that, but I definitely will be watching the movie very soon. I'm pretty excited to see it. But yeah, for the figure, if you are new to the Tamashii Nation's figures, they do have what they call the quality seal, the sticker down here. This is one way to help identify a legit figure or not. And being a Japanese release and premium Bandai here, it does have the Tamashii Web item logo on the box as well. And that's not always there for every single release, especially if you're picking up from an overseas market, so do keep that in mind. On the back here, we do have a nice assortment of images for what he comes with. He's got his saw hands, his laser eyes, and then the wires there as well. Now, we don't actually have the matching Godzilla for this beast yet, but he should hopefully be coming. They did do a bit of a sneak peek preview for the 2004 Godzilla, so who knows, maybe that will be the next figure announced by them, which would be pretty cool if it is. Anyway, let's pop him open and get a closer look at what it comes with. So the inner packaging also comes with the instruction manual here, which explains how to switch out his different hands. So we might need to reference that a little bit later. The main item in the center is obviously Gigan himself, and he's got his little bit, what's this, normal sword arms attached. And then on the right here, he does have his saw ones as well, along with the extra additional parts. And I believe this is a changeable neck part to give him the armor. Assume if you've seen the movie, you'll understand exactly what all these are straight away. And on the back, in a separate piece of packaging, we do have his eye laser, the stand for it, and I believe these are the wire parts that we can attach to him. So we'll have a look at this a little bit later, but for now, let's get the main body out and get a closer look at his overall build and articulation. Okay, so we've got him out of his packaging now. We can get a good look at his overall build, and man, this guy looks crazy. Obviously, I'm very unfamiliar with this character himself. I've actually really been rewatching all the Godzilla movies recently since they added them to Netflix here in Japan. I've only seen a few here and there, so I've been making it my goal whenever I have a free moment to go through and catch up on all the movies, because I've always loved the different kaiju, the monsters from the series, but I've never really understood their backstories, where they came from. So I'm trying to fill in those gaps of information right now. And yeah, I'm pretty excited to see this movie. From what I'm understanding, is an alien lizard brought to Earth to sort of conquer the planet, and yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous with these sword arms, and he's got his fins here which do move as well, which is pretty cool, and all the armor and spikes all the way down along him. In terms of actual just look at him, in terms of straight up paint job quality, yeah, very crisp and clean. The definition of the black and red parts of his fin here is really nice. And then the coloring on his armor parts for his tail is awesome as well. Base silver with some nice weathering and shading, which does give it some definition. And it's the same can be said for his armor parts on the front and legs as well. The blue itself is really nice. It seems like there's the deep dark blue and a lighter one as well. So you do get some definition there. And there's all the little wee rivets, I guess, silver dots scattered throughout his armor there as well, which is really nice. And then the molding and detailing, all the different lines throughout his base, I guess, skin exoskeleton, looks really good as well. The toe claws are actually metal, so that's nice. It does give him that little bit of extra weight down the bottom too. I was quite surprised at how skinny he is. I thought he was going to be a lot more beefier, kind of a bit more Godzilla-like in his core structure, but he's a lot more slender than I was expecting. But he still looks really nice though. I feel like the proportions look really good on him too. Let me know in the comments below what you reckon about this look. So yeah, let's get in and have a look at his over articulation, and then we can move on to the accessories that he comes with. Starting at his upper head here, he's got some awesome swivel action going around to the left and right. He does have about 3 or 4 different points of articulation there as well, each one moving a little bit, and he can get up and down pretty high actually, so that's really nice. And everything feels actually really good, moves lovely, all in unison, which is really good. And no real main areas that can stop the articulation from moving, which is nice. His head as well, just that one joint has a lot of motion there, so that's really nice to see. His mouth here, it doesn't open and shut too much, it's not too bad. But his teeth are pretty chunky, so yeah, it does kind of limit the motion a little bit. But you do have, what's it, maybe about 5 millimeters up and down motion that you do have. Oh wow, his side bits here actually swivel as well, a little bit back and forth, so that's really cool. Oh, they do come off as well. Okay, so that's interesting, so they can just slot in and out, which is nice. Moving down to the shoulders, he does have his shoulder plates here which have a little bit of motion. Moving down to his arms now, there's a main ball joint in there, and yeah, that swivels around quite nicely, though his upper shoulder will kind of limit the motion a little bit if you're going up too high. But moving up and down, yeah, actually yeah, really good. Okay, his shoulder pads are on a separate ball joint as well, and these do pop off and should pop back on easily enough. Yeah, okay, so that's actually not bad. It's quite good that they can come off easily. So if you are trying to get them into a bit more of a unique pose, it might pop off, but you can easily put it back on, so that's nice. His elbow here, which I find is normally quite limited on the Monster Art figures, so far not too bad. Yeah, it's kind of like most of them, a bit more limited, but you do have a few mil up and down. The sword part, I think this part comes right off actually, maybe. I'll find out soon, but this swivels around and you have a decent motion left and right as well, so that's pretty cool actually. I'm not sure if it's actually on a ball joint or not. I'll have to double check the manual before we switch off to the saw ones. Moving down to the waist here, it seems like he's got 1, maybe 2 points. Yeah, mainly 1 point there he can move. So it's a bit hard to get a good grip actually. Yeah, a little bit of motion, not too much up and down there. Yeah, his chest area is a bit more limited. He does have his spikes here, which does go across the 2 parts, but it's not fully attached, so they will move slightly. So not too much motion there, but I guess that's a bit more of a limitation of his overall aesthetic design. Okay, moving down to his hips and waist now. Yeah, it's not too bad up and down, not too much motion you can do there because these flaps will hit his inner body. But yeah, you can get up and around decently well. It is a bit of an oval, so you can't get a full rotation going, I believe. Maybe once you've loosened up a bit more, you will be able to get a bit further around. But straight out of the box, a little bit more limited, and I don't quite want to push it too far just yet. Down towards his knees now. These aren't too bad. Bit of motion there, but the armor will kind of hit on the upper and lower parts of the leg and will restrict the movement a little bit. But overall, not too bad. He can almost go completely straight, and then what's that? Almost 45-degree angle. He does have, what's it, 1, 2 parts? No real motion there, so I'm not sure why that is separate, maybe just for the design. But down to his feet, again, not too much motion, but left and right. No real forward motion, just, what's it, about 1 or 2 mil. It's a bit more limited there. And then he does have his toe tip area, which goes up and down, and you can get some swivel action going on there. Again, a little bit more limited. So for his back fins, the left and right one will actually swivel left and right, which is really nice. What's that, maybe about 10mm of movement either way, which is really cool. The center one won't really do that, but it can go up and down slightly, which is pretty nice. So you can get some unique posing going on there. On to my favourite part of every Monster Arts, and that is the tail section. Again, lots of areas of articulation here, and yeah, overall, despite all these blades on his back here, on the armour, yeah, decent amount of movement going on. You can swivel around, you can almost get a full-on S shape going, which is really nice. And the tip here is pretty big, so not too much motion, but these silver parts are separated slightly, so you do get that little bit extra motion at the very end, but a little bit more limited compared to the center and upper areas. Moving on to the first accessory, and that is the I-beam. He does come with a stand, and it has a ball joint for the top, which will then slot into the effect here. That will give you a little bit of movement on the effect as well, which is pretty cool. And then I believe all we do is just line this up with his eyes. So yeah, this is really nice and easy to use. The effect just slots strictly over his eyes and on the stand, so super easy to use. Next up we have his claw blades, which I assume he shoots out of his sword arm. So these parts on the side here actually pop right off, and then for the wires you just line it up and it should just slot directly into his arm. That slots in there, and now you've got his wire sword that's shooting all the way out. It does say in the manual that these are pretty delicate, so do be careful with them because it is a straight plastic, maybe? Oh no, I think it is a wire and a plastic coating, so it's not too bad, but again, you probably don't want to bend it or tie it or anything like that. I was asked on Instagram how long these wires are, so I'll just measure them now quickly. The wires from the base on his arm come in at roughly 53 to 54 centimeters. It's a little bit hard for me to measure just by myself, especially since these are curved, but there's the rough length of them. So that's actually decently long, and you do have 4 of them as well. I won't attach them all on there since it is a little bit difficult to use and it does take up a lot of space. But they do look really cool, and it's a nice little bit gimmick for them to add on there. The next accessory we have here is the saw hands, and these are so cool. Actually rubber saw blades here, and they do swivel. That is so cool. I mean, they could have just gone lazy and just had it full on plastic molded on there, but no, they've got a fully rotating saw blade, which is really cool. They do have a ball joint in there, so I guess we just have to grab onto the wrist and pop his blade off. Alright, there we go. That's not too bad to take off actually. So yeah, the blades look really good on him, and I believe the next part we need to do is pop his neck off and switch around to get the full transformation decisive battle look for him. So let's do that now. So the part that we're putting on is the neck section here. So we've got the ball joint underneath and then the peg on top. So we need to pop his head off and the neck, and then we can switch out with this section. So yeah, hopefully that won't be too hard to do. Okay, so I popped the neck off without too much issue, so it leaves the joint in the center there. The head itself, before I took it off, I took off his extra blades he does have. That way I was able to get a good grip on his head, and it just popped right off, leaving you with the extra neck. Now that the head is on, we can get the additional accessories. This is, I guess, a saw blade, and it just slots directly on the top there. And along with that, we've got 2 for the side as well, and again these just slot directly in, and there we go, we've got him transformed. We switched out the, I guess, swords with the saws, changed his neck, and put his head back on, and then put these extra more menacing looking serrated blades on his head. And then I guess we can take the laser blade, so laser blast, and line it with his head. And there we go, we've got a badass sword wielding, eye laser shooting space alien boss. And if you're wondering his height, at the moment his eye is sitting at about 16.5 centimeters, with the top of his sword blade on his head at about 20 centimeters roughly. So yeah, it's decently big. I'm really looking forward to them releasing a actual Godzilla, 2004 Godzilla, to match this figure. Originally I wasn't actually going to pick this guy up since I didn't really know about him, but after getting him, I'm definitely happy I did. He looks really cool. I guess it is going to bring us now to our final section, which is pros and cons. jumping right into the pros, I mean, just straight up, he is badass. Look at him, he's got swords for arms, or swords. He's got a laser eye. He's got swords on his head, or again swords. He's got full-on badass armor. He just looks absolutely cool. Ridiculous, yes, but cool nonetheless. So yeah, in terms of other pros, the actual finish looks really nice. I love that kind of blue metallic-y colour that he has for his skin. Exoskeleton, scales, not exactly sure what it is. Let me know in the comments below if you know what his actual body is. But his armor though, that looks really good. I love the colouring that they've done with the base silver and then the darker areas to give you the extra depth. And that is followed along with his swords as well. Though I do wish they'd done the same colouring job on his swords, since these do look a bit more plasticky, which is a little bit of a shame. The other pros, his articulation, especially in his tail, is really nice. His legs is pretty decent. His shoulders pretty nice, and his head and neck is good as well. And the other main pro is the amount of accessories you get. This is just absolutely awesome, especially since Monsterarts are generally pretty light on what you get. But he's got the saw arms, which actually spin, the unique looking eye blast laser effect, which is cool. He can switch out his whole neck area for armored version. These, while hard to use, wire sword shooting lassos are really cool. And yeah, I think every figure should come with this many accessories. It'd be really cool. Obviously it's a bit more harder to do with some of them, but at least, you know, some more unique, maybe rubble or laser effects, atomic breath blast and so forth would be really cool if they're added with each release. Now for the cons, I always have a bit of a hard time picking some out from the Monsterarts lines, but one is definitely the inner waist area. The articulation there is very tight and limited. His armor points here, especially on this one, these two are pretty much tight and overlapping. I think that might have been a bit of a spacing issue, or they could be a bit tight on this particular figure. The teeth molding is pretty rough. I mean, it is an older figure, and especially compared to newer releases where detailing is a lot better, these ones is a little bit rougher, and those teeth, they could be molded in a more cleanly fashion. Beyond that, yeah, I think overall, really good figure, definitely a good release pickup, and coming from someone that hasn't seen the movie, I'm really happy with this figure and this release, and yeah, I think it definitely has a place in my collection going forward, whereas before I was still a little bit on the fence if I wanted to keep this guy long term, or maybe I'll just wait and see if a 2004 Godzilla comes out and then see if I really want to keep, or some on to make space. But no, after getting him playing with these accessories, I really like him, and I'm really happy I did end up picking him up. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think. If you enjoyed this review or not, please do like and subscribe, especially since there will be more Monsterarts content coming out. I do plan on doing a review for the Godzilla SP, Godzilla once he releases, which is pretty soon, actually in a couple of months, along with the Godzilla vs. Kong Mechagodzilla, and then we've got the re-release of Ghidorah 2019 in Jan, and there's something else after that too. I think that's right, they did a preview for Jet Jaguar, and then maybe it'll be 2004 Godzilla. So definitely a lot of content coming, so please subscribe to stay tuned for that. I'll also be posting extra photos of this guy on Instagram as well, which is linked below. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, hope you enjoyed, and until next time, cheers!